For years, Vince McMahon's worst moments were just part of the show. Wild wrestling promos, over-the-top storylines. But now, he's facing real heat. An ex-employee has come forward, accusing Vince of doing something so outrageous, it's left people completely shocked. But oh, if you think that's the worst of it, wait until you hear what came out nearly 20 years later in a lawsuit that has the entire wrestling world gagged. In this video, we're breaking down what this ex-employee had to say and the lawsuit that could change everything. The revelation. For decades, Vince McMahon ruled WWE, formerly WWF, with an iron grip, making billions, building global superstars, and crafting some of the most iconic moments in sports entertainment history. But behind the larger-than-life Mr. McMahon persona we saw on TV every week, a much darker story was unfolding. One such story dates back to 2006, when McMahon was accused of inappropriate conduct at a tanning salon in Boca Raton, Florida. At the time, no charges were filed, and the incident was largely forgotten, buried under years of headlines and spectacle. Now, nearly 2 decades later, that allegation has resurfaced, and it's not alone. It's one piece of a disturbing pattern that has begun to crack the powerful image Vince McMahon spent decades building, and it may be what ultimately triggered his fall from grace. Before we dive into the serious allegations that have finally forced McMahon out of the company he built, let's rewind to that 2006 incident, the moment when troubling signs first began to surface, only to be quickly swept under the rug. It was January 2006, Royal Rumble weekend, a time when WWE fans were focused on one of the company's biggest annual events. Behind the scenes, however, something far more troubling was allegedly taking place. According to reports, McMahon visited a tanning salon called Tanzabar in Boca Raton, Florida. It was there that an employee accused him of showing her nude photos unprompted and forcibly groping her in a tanning booth. When confronted about his behavior, McMahon reportedly responded that he was only trying to have some fun. The story was initially covered by the Palm Beach Post, and McMahon's wife Linda called the allegations totally bizarre, while their daughter Stephanie confirmed that her father was indeed a regular visitor to the salon. Despite the seriousness of the allegations, no charges were filed, and the story quickly faded from public view. It would be years before these accusations would resurface in discussions about McMahon's history of alleged misconduct. It's worth noting that this incident occurred late on Sunday night, January 29, 2006, as reported by discussions citing police sources. The employee managed to escape the situation, but the lack of legal action at the time, possibly due to insufficient evidence or other factors, meant that McMahon faced no real consequences for his alleged actions. This 2006 incident wasn't the first time McMahon had faced such accusations. Earlier allegations date back to 1992, when former WWF referee Rita Chatterton alleged that McMahon had raped her in 1986. These accusations, combined with others that would emerge later, paint a troubling picture of a powerful man who repeatedly faced allegations of sexual misconduct, but somehow managed to avoid serious repercussions for decades. Fast forward to 2024, and the walls finally began closing in on Vince McMahon. In January of that year, Janelle Grant, a former WWE employee, filed a lawsuit against McMahon WWE and former head of talent relations John Laurinaitis in the U.S. District Court for the District of Connecticut. The allegations were shocking. Grant claimed that McMahon had sexually trafficked and assaulted her at WWE headquarters from 2019 to 2022 and had used her as a pawn to secure talent deals with prospective wrestlers. The lawsuit alleged violations of the Trafficking Victims Prevention Act, civil battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. According to the complaint, Grant had been forced into a sexual relationship with McMahon to maintain her employment, and McMahon had used WWE resources to traffic her to others. This lawsuit didn't come out of nowhere. In June 2022, WWE's board had begun investigating a $3 million hush money payment that McMahon had made to a woman with whom he'd allegedly had an affair. This investigation ultimately uncovered that McMahon had paid a total of $12 million to 4 different women over the years to silence allegations of sexual misconduct. This revelation forced McMahon to retire as CEO in July 2022, with his daughter Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan taking over leadership of the company. However, McMahon wasn't content to stay away for long. In January 2023, he returned to WWE as executive chairman, amid rumors that the company was up for sale. 8 months later, in September 2023, WWE merged with UFC to form TKO Group Holdings, with McMahon appointed as executive chairman of the new entity. It seemed that once again, McMahon had weathered the storm and maintained his grip on power. But then came Grant's lawsuit in January 2024, with allegations so disturbing that not even Vince McMahon could shrug them off. The timing couldn't have been worse for WWE, as the company had just announced a $5 billion deal with Netflix. As one commentator put it, the next Netflix crime documentary could be this perfect. The details of Grant's allegations are truly disturbing. According to the lawsuit, McMahon, who was 78 at the time, met Grant when she was living in his building and struggling to find employment. Despite her lack of corporate work experience, McMahon allegedly offered her a job in exchange for sex, paying her about $200,000 per year plus lavish gifts. Grant claimed that during initial meetings before she was hired, McMahon engaged in inappropriate behavior, such as appearing in his underwear, touching her legs, asking for hugs, and warning her to keep their relationship secret. The job she was given was allegedly a fake position called administrative coordinator, where she had little actual work to do and instead spent her time sending McMahon explicit photos and videos. The gifts McMahon allegedly gave Grant were extensive: alternative medical care, clubhouse access to horse racing events, WrestleMania tickets, private transportation, a $2,000 Nordstrom gift card, expensive chocolates, $20,000 for surgery, jewelry, cashmere clothing, a brand new BMW, spa certificates, private chef-catered dinners, and regular flower deliveries. It's clear that Grant was being compensated handsomely for her employment, but the nature of that employment raises serious ethical and legal questions. According to the lawsuit, McMahon would send explicit texts to Grant, often describing sexual fantasies involving her with multiple men. These messages, quoted in the legal documents, paint a disturbing picture of a man using his power and wealth to coerce a woman into fulfilling his sexual desires. Perhaps most disturbing of all are the allegations involving group sexual encounters. Grant claimed that McMahon instructed her to participate in threesomes, including one with John Laurinaitis and another with a physical therapist. During one of these encounters, Grant alleged that McMahon defecated on her head.
Now, she does claim that during this, apparently, Vince somehow managed to on her head. And Vince then nipped off for a shower while he instructed her to carry on pleasuring the other dude with still in her hair. He's 78, maybe he tried to squeeze a fart out and it went wrong while he was getting, pleasured off her or whatever. It's said as if this was a thing. I don't know if this was a thing.
These allegations paint a deeply troubling picture, one marked by abuse of power, exploitation, and systemic mistreatment. If proven true, they go far beyond personal misconduct and point toward potentially criminal behavior that's finally caught up with one of the most powerful figures in entertainment history. But Vince isn't the only one under scrutiny. Brock Lesnar's name has also been dragged into the controversy. Brock Lesnar's involvement in financial fallout. In an amended complaint filed on January 31st, 2025, in the U.S. District Court for the District of Connecticut, Janelle Grant alleged that McMahon had offered her to Lesnar for sex in 2021 and demanded she create personalized sexual content for Lesnar to secure his contract renewal with WWE. The allegations specifically claim that McMahon shared explicit photos and videos of Grant with Lesnar, with one instance describing a planned sexual encounter in Connecticut that didn't occur because Lesnar was too intoxicated or there were weather-related travel issues.
And this is where Brock Lesnar comes into it. Now, I'm a big Brock Lesnar fan, right? But this just is a bit weird now because Vince has instructed her to make sexual pictures and videos to send Brock Lesnar as a part of some sort of negotiation he was having with Brock in order to get him to re-sign with the WWE. And it kind of comes across as some weird sort of like banter between Vince and Brock.
According to the lawsuit, Vince told Grant that offering her to Lesnar was part of the deal in their contract negotiations. When McMahon allegedly informed Lesnar of this arrangement, Lesnar reportedly responded, "LOL, that's your turf. She will be ruined after me and leave your ass. Plus, after me, your tool won't fit anymore," followed by laughing emojis. This response suggests that Lesnar may have been uncomfortable with McMahon's offer and was trying to deflect by joking about it. However, the allegations against Lesnar don't stop there. Grant claimed that after this exchange, Lesnar directly messaged her asking for a video of her urinating, which she provided. She described feeling like she didn't recognize herself anymore after complying with this request, suggesting the psychological psychological toll these demands were taking on her. It's important to note that while Lesnar is named in the lawsuit, he is not listed as a defendant, meaning he is not being sued directly. His last WWE appearance was in 2023, and his involvement in these allegations led to his exclusion from events like the Royal Rumble in early 2025. Some reports suggest that WWE is waiting for the legal situation to blow over before considering his return, indicating that the company recognizes the serious nature of these allegations. According to Grant's account, after Lesnar did not show up for their planned encounter, McMahon subjected her to a night of rough sex where he role-played as Lesnar. This disturbing allegation adds another layer to the already troubling narrative of sexual exploitation and abuse of power. Fan reactions to Lesnar's involvement in this scandal have been deeply divided. On social media platforms like X, formerly Twitter, some fans expressed strong disapproval, with one user hoping that Lesnar, McMahon, and Laurinaitis would rot in hell. Another fan stated, "I used to love him as the Beast, but now, nah, I'm done. Can't support someone involved in this mess," indicating a shift in allegiance due to these allegations. Some fans have even called for boycotts of WWE over Lesnar's involvement, showing the potential impact on the company's reputation and bottom line. However, not all fans are convinced of Lesnar's culpability. On Reddit, some users defended Lesnar, noting that he has been married to former WWE wrestler Sable for around 20 years and suggesting that he might not have been aware of the criminal nature of McMahon's actions. The discourse around Lesnar's involvement highlights the complexity of this case and the different ways fans are processing these troubling allegations. Some see Lesnar as complicit in McMahon's alleged exploitation of Grant, while others view him as a pawn in McMahon's manipulative schemes. The truth, as is often the case, may lie somewhere in between. Many fans believe that Lesnar's WWE career is effectively over due to this scandal. As one Reddit user put it, "He'll never get the stink of this off of him. It's over," reflecting a belief that the damage to his reputation is irreparable. Others remain hopeful that he might return to WWE once the legal issues are resolved, but the general consensus seems to be that his involvement in this scandal has seriously jeopardized his future with the company. Let's now turn to the financial aspects of this case, particularly the hush money payments and the eventual breakdown of the agreement between McMahon and Grant. According to the lawsuit, the inappropriate relationship between McMahon and Grant lasted from approximately 2019 to 2022. Around 2022, McMahon allegedly told Grant that his wife had discovered their affair and that Grant needed to leave WWE immediately, as her position had been created solely for the purpose of facilitating their sexual relationship. In an attempt to keep the situation quiet, McMahon offered Grant $1 million to sign a non-disclosure agreement, NDA. However, Grant reportedly countered with a request for $3 million, citing loss of earning potential despite her lack of corporate experience prior to meeting McMahon. McMahon agreed to this amount, with the payment structure consisting of $1 million upfront and $500,000 every 6 months until the full $3 million was paid. So Vince offers out $1 million to sign an NDA, obviously to keep her mouth shut and sweep everything under the carpet, but she declined. Yeah, funny old thing, she says, "I'm gonna need $3 million due to loss of earning potential," despite the fact that when he met her, she didn't have 2 pennies to rub together and couldn't get a job for love nor money. As part of this agreement, McMahon allegedly instructed Grant to continue appeasing Lesnar if he messaged her. Grant claims she continued to send explicit content to Lesnar, and there were plans for him to fly in and have sex with her, though this never happened due to weather conditions. After the initial $1 million payment was made, news broke about McMahon's various NDAs with multiple women who had worked at WWE. In the wake of this publicity, McMahon stopped making the remaining payments to Grant, paying only the initial $1 million of the agreed-upon $3 million. This breach of their agreement is likely one of the factors that led Grant to file her lawsuit in January 2024. The financial implications of this scandal extend beyond the payments to Grant. In June 2022, WWE's board began investigating a $3 million hush money payment that McMahon had made to a woman with whom he'd allegedly had an affair. This investigation uncovered that McMahon had paid a total of $12 million to 4 different women over the years to silence allegations of sexual misconduct. Then, on January 10, 2025, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, announced that McMahon had agreed to pay a $400,000 fine and reimburse $1.3 million to WWE for failing to disclose non-disclosure agreements. Specifically, McMahon had failed to disclose a 2019 payment of $7.5 million and the 2022 payment of $3 million, raising questions about financial transparency and corporate governance at WWE. The SEC's involvement adds another layer of legal trouble for McMahon McMahon beyond the civil lawsuit filed by Grant. In addition to the SEC investigation, there are ongoing civil and criminal investigations into McMahon's conduct, suggesting that the legal ramifications of these allegations are far from over. It's worth noting that in May 2024, Grant agreed to pause her lawsuit for 6 months at the request of the U.S. Department of Justice, pending a federal investigation. This stay was lifted in December 2024, allowing the case to proceed. In early 2025, Grant's attorneys filed motions to amend the complaint, which is when Lesnar was officially named. As of March 2025, Grant filed a reply brief opposing efforts by McMahon, WWE, and Laurinaitis to block the amended complaint. She argued that new developments, including the SEC findings against McMahon for failing to disclose hush money payments, should be considered in the case. The defendants, however, are pushing for private arbitration, citing the January 2022 NDA with the $1 million payment, which Grant's team contests. Judge Sarah F. Russell is expected to decide whether to allow the amended complaint or proceed with the original. The lawsuit also intersects with a related state court case in Connecticut against Dr. Carlin Kolker and Peak Wellness for allegedly withholding medical records, adding further complexity to the legal landscape surrounding this scandal. Patterns of controversy and the aftermath. To fully understand the significance of the current allegations, it's important to recognize that they are not isolated incidents, but part of a troubling pattern that spans decades. McMahon's history of alleged misconduct dates back to at least 1992, when former WWF referee Rita Chatterton alleged that he had raped her in 1986. This accusation, combined with the 2006 tanning salon incident and the recent allegations by Grant, suggests a consistent pattern of behavior over a long period. Beyond these specific allegations of sexual misconduct, McMahon has faced various other controversies throughout his career. In the early 1990s, he was indicted on charges of conspiracy to distribute steroids following the conviction of Dr. George Zahorian, who had supplied steroids to WWE wrestlers. Although McMahon was acquitted in 1994, the scandal cast a shadow over the company and raised questions about his leadership and ethics. There have also been allegations that McMahon covered up for wrestlers involved in serious misconduct. For example, he allegedly told Steve Austin's then-wife Deborah not to discuss domestic violence charges publicly in the late 1990s. Additionally, McMahon has been criticized for creative decisions that many found disturbing or exploitative, such as a 2006 live TV segment involving Edge and Lita that wrestlers opposed, but McMahon pushed forward with to boost ratings. Another recent legal battle involving McMahon is a 2024 case in Maryland alleging that WWE enabled the sexual exploitation of young boys in the 1980s and 1990s. This lawsuit, while separate from Grant's allegations, further contributes to the picture of a company where misconduct was allegedly tolerated or even facilitated under McMahon's leadership. In examining the pattern of controversies surrounding McMahon, a timeline emerges that shows an escalation of legal and financial consequences in recent years. 1986, Rita Chatterton alleged McMahon accusation made public in 1992. 2006, tanning salon employee alleged sexual harassment by McMahon. June 2022, WWE board investigated $3 million hush money payment, found $12 million to 4 women. July 2022, McMahon retired as CEO. January 2023, McMahon returned as executive chairman amid sale rumors. September 2023, WWE merged with UFC to form TKO. McMahon appointed executive chairman. January 2024, Grant filed lawsuit. McMahon resigned from TKO. May 2024, Grant paused lawsuit at DOJ request for federal investigation. December 2024, stay lifted, case proceeded. January 2025, SEC fined McMahon $400,000, ordered $1.3 million reimbursement. Amended complaint named Lesnar. March 2025, Grant opposed efforts to block amended complaint. This timeline illustrates how the consequences for McMahon's alleged misconduct have intensified over time, culminating in his resignation from TKO in January 2024, following Grant's lawsuit. It also shows how various legal proceedings, from WWE board investigations to SEC fines to civil lawsuits, have converged to create a perfect storm that even someone as powerful as Vince McMahon couldn't weather. So how have fans reacted to these allegations? The response has been mixed but increasingly negative as more details have emerged. For years, many fans were willing to overlook controversies surrounding McMahon, viewing them as separate from his creative contributions to professional wrestling. However, the Grant lawsuit, with its disturbing details and the involvement of other WWE figures like Laurinaitis and Lesnar, has forced fans to confront the darker side of a company they've supported. Fan criticism of McMahon has focused not only on the ethical lapses weaknesses revealed by these allegations, but also on his creative decisions over the years. For example, many fans expressed frustration with his booking decisions, such as having Asuka lose her championship to Charlotte Flair before WrestleMania 35, a move some saw as prioritizing McMahon's preferred stars over fan favorites. The 2015 Royal Rumble is another example of fan backlash against McMahon's creative direction. When Daniel Bryan was eliminated early and Roman Reigns won, fans booed and chanted in disapproval, showing their frustration with McMahon's handling of fan-favorite performers. These creative frustrations, combined with the serious ethical and legal issues now surrounding McMahon, have led to a significant decline in his popularity among wrestling fans. WWE's TV ratings have dropped faster than general television trends, suggesting that fans are tuning out due, at least in part, to dissatisfaction with the product under McMahon's leadership. The corporate response to these allegations has been significant. When Grant's lawsuit was filed in January 2024, Slim Jim immediately withdrew its sponsorship of the Royal Rumble, indicating the potential financial impact of these controversies on WWE's business relationships. This sponsor withdrawal, combined with the public relations damage, likely contributed to McMahon's decision to resign from TKO on January 26, 2024. Current WWE leadership, particularly Paul Triple H Levesque, who is now effectively the creative head of the company, has been criticized for his response to the allegations. When asked if he had read the lawsuit, Levesque claimed he had not, despite it involving his father-in-law and the grandfather of his children. His description of the week is amazing for WWE, presumably referring to business developments rather than the lawsuit, struck many as tone-deaf given the serious nature of the allegations. The handling of the Lesnar situation also reflects WWE's struggle to navigate these controversies. Lesnar was pulled from the Royal Rumble in early 2025, presumably due to his naming in the amended complaint. Some reports suggest WWE is waiting for the legal situation to blow over before considering Lesnar's return, indicating a reactive rather than proactive approach to addressing these serious allegations. This brings us to the question of what these allegations mean for the future of WWE and professional wrestling as a whole. With McMahon now out of the picture, WWE has an opportunity to reshape its corporate culture and creative direction. Under the leadership of Triple H and Nick Khan, there have already been notable changes to the product, with many fans and critics noting improvements in the storytelling and in-ring action. However, the company still faces challenges in fully addressing the legacy of the McMahon era. The ongoing legal proceedings related to Grant's lawsuit and other allegations will continue to cast a shadow over WWE for the foreseeable future. Additionally, the involvement of current or former WWE personnel, such as Lesnar and Laurinaitis, in these controversies complicates the company's efforts to move forward. It's worth noting that in September 2024, Grant's attorney, Ann Callis, described a culture of corruption at WWE, suggesting that the issues extended beyond McMahon himself to the corporate environment he created. This raises questions about how deeply entrenched these problems might be and what structural changes might be necessary to address them. The allegations have also sparked broader conversations about power dynamics, consent, and exploitation in the entertainment industry. While the #MeToo movement brought attention to these issues in Hollywood and other sectors, professional wrestling, with its unique blend of sports and entertainment and its historically insular culture, has only recently begun to reckon with similar concerns. Some critics point out that McMahon's on-screen character as a villainous, abusive boss may have inadvertently normalized or even glorified the type of behavior he's now accused of engaging in behind the scenes. For decades, McMahon played a character who would manipulate his employees and force women into compromising positions, blurring the line between fiction and reality in troubling ways. When analyzing Grant's lawsuit, it's important to acknowledge the complexity of the situation. Some commentators, including the presenter in our transcript, have questioned aspects of Grant's account, particularly regarding her agency in the relationship with McMahon. They point to her age, 43, 44 at the time, the substantial compensation she received, and her continued participation in the arrangement over several years as factors that complicate the narrative. However, it's crucial to remember that power dynamics and the potential for coercion exist regardless of age. McMahon, as the CEO of WWE and Grant's employer, held significant power over her professionally and financially. The allegations, if true, describe a pattern of escalating demands and boundary violations that could constitute sexual harassment, trafficking, and assault under the law. As Grant's attorney argued in opposition to efforts to block the amended complaint in March 2025, new developments, including the SEC findings against McMahon for failing to disclose hush money payments, lend credibility to her claims. The legal system will ultimately determine the validity of these allegations, but they have already had a profound impact on McMahon's legacy and WWE's future. Looking ahead, said, WWE faces the challenge of rebuilding its reputation in the wake of these controversies. The company's handling of the situation, from McMahon's initial retirement in 2022 to his return and subsequent resignation in 2024 to the ongoing litigation, will be scrutinized by fans, sponsors, and media alike. The success of this rebuilding effort will depend on WWE's willingness to acknowledge past issues and implement meaningful changes to prevent similar problems in the future. For fans, the allegations present a difficult reckoning with their support for a company that may have enabled or covered up serious misconduct. Many are grappling with how to reconcile their love for professional wrestling with the troubling revelations about one of its most influential figures. Some have chosen to boycott WWE entirely, while others continue to support the company while hoping for positive changes under new leadership. The lawsuit also intersects with broader societal conversations about accountability, power, and justice in cases of alleged sexual misconduct. As with many high-profile cases, it raises questions about who gets believed, what evidence is required, and how we balance the principles of due process with supporting those who come forward with allegations of abuse. It's important to note that as of April 2, 2025, McMahon has consistently denied all allegations through his attorney, describing the amended complaint as a publicity stunt filled with desperate falsehoods. His legal team is pushing for private arbitration based on the NDA signed in January 2022, which Grant's team argues should be voided due to the circumstances under which it was signed. The ultimate resolution of this case may take years, with potential for appeals, settlements, or even criminal charges depending on the findings of ongoing investigations. Regardless of the legal outcome, the allegations have already fundamentally altered perceptions of McMahon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.